There it is.
The music, please?
We are live. We're not playing Kenny. Are we actually playing Kenny G? Okay, that's fine. Here we go, Kenny G.
I'm open to whatever.
It's going to be background for me. Don't worry about it. Here we go.
Okay, go for
music. Have a merry little Christmas. Welcome back to the Man Better Podcast. We are sponsored by Fit Care Physiotherapy and Wellness, with the emphasis to focus on your fitness so you can avoid the healthcare space. I'm your host, Corona, coming to you from the concrete jungle of New York City. And joining me, turn it down, Bo. And joining me, as always, from the beautiful Rocky Mountain town of Erie, Colorado, is the one and only Dr. Bo Babenko. Bo, what's up?
What's up? This is the most Colorado thing I own. I have stuff that literally says Colorado on it, and this is more Colorado. So my wife got me this for.
My wife
got me that, so I got to represent. I think they call us West Coast, but it's not really coast. I don't know. I'm still learning.
Okay, goodbye, Bo. Today we are thrilled to introduce our guest, Kyle Anderson. Kyle brings 25 years of experience in the fitness industry, having worked as a coach, studio manager, and consultant. Along the way, he's trained celebrity clients, built high-performing teams, and developed thriving studio culture. Known for his expertise in recruiting and top talent and leadership development, Kyle is dedicated to helping studio owners overcome challenges and achieve lasting success. Through FitPath Consulting, Kyle provides expert support in employee recruitment, digital marketing, budget management, and leadership training for general managers, and empowering fitness studios to grow and thrive in every stage. Welcome, Mr. Anderson. What's up?
Thank you, Dr. Bo and Corona. Appreciate it, man. It's good to be here.
So I gave you a little bit of an intro. Why don't you? Did I miss anything about your backstory that should be in there, other than you played football that they don't know about? But
Yeah, no, I mean that's pretty much it. My fitness career started back in Bally's, in Long Island, aka Jack LaLanne. That's how old I am. And it kind of just spawned from there. I went from New York, from Bally's to New York Sports Club to New York Health and Racket to a couple of independent studios on the Upper East Side and all throughout Manhattan. So, when you pretty much start out back then, you went through the gauntlet of gyms that were in New York or, those big box gyms. I did LA Fitness also, which was terrible, but yeah. So I'm here now.
So listen, man, I've known you for a very, very long time. You really, listen, I had respect for your work always, but you really, really gotten into a different space in dealing with the industry. Before I get into what you do personally, let's really discuss the state of the industry.
Yeah.
Let's discuss what's going on. Why don't we start, because we've already had this, and I know Bo and I have had people on for this. Let's talk about GLP-1s first.
Yeah.
The weight loss drug. Your thought?
I think that's going to be a big trend. I mean, it's trending now this year, but I think it's going to be a big trend next year because all the fitness studios are actually, sort of doing a hybrid model of combining. I think it's going to be clearly blurred what fitness gyms do in terms of wellness and fitness and trying to marry the two. And I think GLPs, I think the biggest benefit to trainers is if they get certified, because you could become a GLP certified trainer. And I think if you do that, and then if the gym markets you and, that service the right way, I think it'll be more mainstream than it is right now because, all of a sudden now your members will be more in tune to what GLPs are. And you'll actually have someone who's educated enough to actually explain it, because I think a lot of people don't know what it is. They hear Ozempic and all these other, all the other words that come with GLPs, but I don't think anyone really knows what it is. I mean, it's pretty much an appetite suppressant, but they don't understand, the pros and cons of it and things of that nature. So I think a benefit to gyms and studios and trainers, if you get your trainer certified in GLP, then you'll be off to a good start for 2025.
Hey, Bo, do you want to tell them or should I tell them?
Yeah, we just had a guest a few episodes ago, Eric Durak, who put together a GLP-1 certification for personal trainers specifically. So we encourage folks to go check out that episode if you're listening in. Let me take a step back, a bigger step too, and just to give folks a context. So you got FitPath Consulting under your name there. Tell us a little bit. What's the path? Consulting is always a fun term. People are like, I'm a consultant. Like, I don't know what that means. I mean, you go on projects, you do things, but yeah, FitPath. What is the path? Tell us a little bit about that for a second to move, and we'll come back to the GLPs.
Sure. Well, I started it back in April, and this is when I left a chain that I was at called BFT, and I was looking for another GM position, and because everyone and mother's applying to every job out there, only 10% of resumes are actually seen right now, even less than that. You got hundreds of people applying to be GMs and personal trainers and sales associates when they're actually plumbers and, maintenance workers, who don't have the experience. But just to give you context, that's how many people are actually applying for these jobs. So I got a call back from a few gyms, but not many.
Sorry to cut you off, Kyle. I'm just curious. Is this unique to, you're talking about the fitness industry, these numbers you're throwing
Yes.
out?
Yeah. Well, okay. No, a lot of industries, but fitness industry specifically also, because now I'm on the back end and I can see how many people are actually applying for these jobs. When I'm hiring for gyms and stuff like that, I'll get a couple hundred applicants for a sales associate job, and maybe 5% of them are actually qualified, So when I was looking for another job, I was sitting with my girlfriend and we literally came up with the idea together within, a thought of one another. I turned to her and she was like, why don't you consult? I was like, I was just thinking the same thing. From there, the idea spawned and we came up with a name and came up with the idea. And I've already done everything I've done that I consult for, which is done. I've done pre-sales before. I've done the hiring, firing, payroll, everything under the sun that a gym would need. I can consult, in my sleep about, so that's how it kind of started. So I will get you on the right path.
I want to know the
path. The right path is to be profitable, which a lot of gyms are not. I can speak to experience, working with gyms like Rumble and Yoga 6 and things that are under Exponential Fitness, Club Pilates and things like that. Row House, which I think is still under Exponential. 2 out of 10 of those brands are only profitable right now, as of last year. And a large part of the fitness industry, when it comes to studios, 70% are failing, and it's for a number of reasons, whether they don't have the right staff, whether they, a lot of them don't even know how to read a P&L. They're not getting support from their franchisor. There's a lot of issues, and a lot of them don't know how to fix them. So, that's why I have a job.
Well, my observation, I was going to say my observation in the fitness industry, and I was in the CrossFit space, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, what you think of that space as well. And we've heard Corona's thoughts. We won't bias that conversation, but my understanding, a lot of people
CrossFit before CrossFit had a name. They just put a name on it and they marketed it the right way. Everyone in the gym was doing CrossFit before CrossFit had a name. If you were an athlete or anything like that, they just labeled it and marketed it the right way and called it CrossFit and started saying, okay, do these WODs and shit like that. But I'm not a fan of CrossFit.
Okay. I'd love to hear more about that. Let's go there since we're there. But yeah,
sure.
Why are you not a fan of it? And I'm not here to defend. I just like to engage in the conversation.
Kyle, I'll stay silent because you know. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's so reckless. I mean, the amount of injuries that come out of CrossFit. The one thing I will say that CrossFit does bring is community, and it does have a culture to it. And walking this planet, you hope to be a part of something like that one day, whether it's your gym, your church, or whatever it is. So that's the one thing that's amongst other positive things that come out of it is the community and culture that it brings, and that it cultivates. But I'm just not a fan of the recklessness of it. And I think it might be better now, but early on, it was just so all over the place with their workouts. And you had people doing cleans with, 225 pounds on it. And like their form is totally off. Like it was just so reckless. I didn't like that part of it. I think everyone who's buying CrossFit gyms, they weren't putting enough time into coaching the right way, because a lot of people who actually bought the CrossFit gyms were not real coaches. They just they had enough money. They got money from somewhere, got a gym, got a box, as they call it.
It was very cheap. I was involved in all that stuff. There's a very low point of entry between getting certified.
$1,000, right?
It was $3,000. That $3,000 is around 2012 that
What?
it became that. Before that, it was like $500 to use the name, and they grandfathered in the first like 100 around the world or whatever. So yeah, now they finally went up a little bit. I think it's up to like $5,000, but it's very cheap to use the name compared to other franchise models. I'm sure you could talk about. And it's not a franchise; it's an affiliate, all that good stuff. And I certainly agree with you. But I'd be curious how many. I'm not going to defend again the bad technique. I think that's the majority of what we saw. But like a lot of things, you're going to see the most extreme negative stuff because that's how the internet works. And having been in that space again, and I think objectively from this academic-ish conversation we're trying to have, 10,000-foot view, I do think there's a lot that they right. So I'll be the voice of at least somewhat defending that they did a lot right. I think the whole concept of CrossFit has done more to probably one of the most positive impacts in the grand scheme of things of the fitness space.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. Yeah. No, like I said, it does cultivate a community, and what it did was it made it. I think at the time people were looking for something else as an alternative to working out, and I think CrossFit came at the right time. I think their time was perfect. And if you want Olympic lifting. If you don't like to strictly Olympic lift, then this was somewhat of an alternative because it added a little bit more a dynamic. It had more a dynamic movement to it or dynamic attitude towards it. Especially going from station to station to station. So it was set up a little bit different than just doing the straight Olympic lifts. So I think it came at the right time. I think it gave confidence to a lot of people who were looking for something else. It gave an alternative to people looking for something else, and I think it by and large, yes, it did have a positive impact on it. It was just the recklessness of it that I took issue with.
What I'm going to really say is that he's heard this before. It came from my mouth, where it's not about the movements themselves. If they're taught appropriately, they're effective movements.
Right.
The reality of it is people got into that to get into a community and a culture. Bo happens to be was a competitive athlete. He's still competitive in everything he does because that's who he is. But with that being said, it wasn't CrossFit that was the issue, but the issue was the coaching of CrossFit that you and I disagree with, which is essentially going to keep Bo and I in business for the rest of our lives because people will continue to get injured, and I will do the rehab on that and the post-rehab on that. So,
yeah, just for the context again, I mean, this is demand better. That's why we started this podcast. We're saying demand better from personal trainers. There's a lot wrong, but if we put numbers on it, and again, we're all in different exposures to this whole concept. So I don't know if we put a number, just let's throw out a ball. Let's play a little game. We talk about personal trainers in general. Like what percent of personal trainers would you trust to train your mother? Like,
well, wait, before you answer that, I really want you to, I know you know what I'm going to say to you. I really want you to put thought in this because the general public assumes that when a gym hires somebody, they are qualified.
Right.
I want to preface that because I don't want people to think that we're just talking in generalities. We're talking about you've just been hired in a club. Maybe it's an Equinox. It doesn't matter where it is. You just got hired. What happens? How they get hired? What are we looking at as a consumer who doesn't know about the hiring process within the gyms?
Once they get hired, then they get put right on the floor. That's pretty much it. That's the path.
Are they certified?
Depends on the gym. It depends on the gym. Certain gyms will have a 30 to 90 day policy to get your certification, whether you had one in the past or not. They want you to have one. That's for insurance purposes usually, but you can get around that because no one's checking that. But yeah, if I had to put a number on it, I'm very particular. So I'd say 6 out of 10, I would not have trained my mother.
That's funny. That's the exact number I kind of had in my mind.
Yeah.
60%.
Yeah. For a number of reasons, whether it's the training, whether it's the attitude, especially nowadays, everything under the sun, the trainer's on the phone, the trainer's doing something else. It's just, I can't stand that side of fitness right now. There's a time and a place for that, and that's another part of the conversation. But It's not right. It's unless you trainers nowadays, and this is probably going into another topic, but trainers nowadays need to work hand in hand with the gym owners. And that's one of the things that I think is going to trend next year is, utilizing social media more and your sales associates and your staff to market your gym, especially against Gen Z. The second most popular job market is the health and fitness industry amongst Gen Z. And they're using social media. The third biggest category on TikTok is health and fitness in the fitness industry and stuff like that. So they're not marketing their employees the right way. They need to utilize them and market the gym. And because they want to be on camera, they want to do this stuff. They want to show their workouts. They want to show their body, stuff like that. Okay, fine. We'll make a place for the gym for them to do that. And you guys collaborate and work hand in hand. You can get your followers. I can get your followers to come in here and so forth, and we can market the gym at the same time. So I think that's one of the things that's going to trend next year heavily once once owners figure out how to actually do that, and leverage the TikTok market and leverage how to market the Gen Z trainers and stuff like that.
Well,
Are they just doing dances? Are they doing the Macarena?
Yeah.
Dances, all that crazy nonsense that actually works. If it doesn't get banned.
So hear me out, right? So Gen Z, if we're going to categorize them, the fitness people, they're the ones who've kind of dumbed down fitness, because the reality is that we're doing a lot of online training with people who aren't qualified to do online training because they look good and they're not. Listen, I told you, there's very few people in this world that I would trust with online training. Bo's one of them. I don't like doing it unless it's an existing client. So what they've done is they've dumbed down the training industry, and they tried to make this very, very, very easy. And what's happening is we have much more injuries. We have much more issues now physically because people don't know what they're doing. Well,
let me make this distinction for you, because there's a distinction between the two. So you have the online community, Gen Z, who has completely dumbed it down. Yes, 1,000%. But then you also have the trainers who work in the actual gym who are more qualified and who are more open to the education. So there's a difference between the two, between I want, 1 million followers on TikTok versus the trainers who are actually in the gym who want to make this a profession.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because there is a difference between the two. But I agree with you 100%. There is that sect of Gen Z that just wants followers and, brand deals and stuff like that. But there is a part, because I've hired them, there's a part of that actually live in the gym and want to make this an actual career and actually get better at their job. So, yeah, they do.
Let me ask you one quick question. So you've seen this partnership code between the trainer and the gym?
Yeah.
Has it been successful? Because a lot of trainers are very protective. Like, I'm a very protective person.
It has worked. And I'll say one of the places that leverage their employees better than most is Rumble. Because of the way the franchise is just set up. It looks like a party. They're always marketing themselves. Like it's actually easy to market a place like Rumble just because they have a DJ. It's already set up like a party and already set up like a place that someone wants to be and work out. And so they always have their employees, on camera, promoting themselves, promoting the class, promoting the gym. And that's one of the best ways to do it. They did it just because they kind of felt Rumble was set up for that. That model was just set up for that. Other gyms can do it. They just have to know how to do it and, do it with some sort of intention.
Well, listen, man, because it's kind of like when you kind of look at things, I see trainers being very protective of their clientele. And I just find it to be very, very interesting that they would partner up. Like, I didn't really realize that people were doing that. And I find it a very, very interesting strategy. I think it's a great thing for the gyms, but the gyms have already been hustling the trainers for a long period of time, throughout the years.
Well, it has to be the right partnership, because if you're gonna stay in the gym and do videos and stuff like that, then you can make it worth the trainer's while. Okay, well, fine. If you bring in X amount of members and they mention Susie's name, who's the trainer, then fine. Well, Susie will get a bonus at the end of the month. There's different ways you can set that up to make it benefit for you, because obviously, if Susie's bringing in members, then okay, you got that membership, but then you hit Susie off also. So it's an incentive for both.
Okay, I think that's great. I think that's great. So talk to me about since we're in the hiring process, let's talk about hiring GMs. and the GMs themselves, because most GMs that I know of that go into the fitness industry have no business in the fitness industry.
None. And the problem with hiring GMs is that the issue in general is that you have a lot of these owners and of franchises, whether it's independent gym or a franchise, is that they usually come from a different field than fitness.
Yes.
And so because of that, they think the hiring is the same, or they think they can go about it the same, and it's absolutely, you just can't. And so a lot of them don't know how to hire, what to look for, and what's, the pros and cons of whatever candidate they're looking at. And so they end up hiring, the worst possible person. And then all of a sudden they're wondering why they're hemorrhaging 10 grand a month each month, and members aren't staying because that GM does not know how to cultivate a great atmosphere. They don't know how to build relationships. They don't know how to be social. They don't know how to set up events. They don't know anything about grassroots marketing. And a lot of stuff can be taught, but you have to have some sort of base to work with, and a lot of these GMs just come out of nowhere and get hired, and they bring the gym down. Especially it affects retention, and that's the biggest thing. You want to retain the members you actually have. You don't want to lose. You want to keep your attrition around 4 or 5% per month. Anything above 7 or 8, you're just dying.
It's kind of a crazy place where we're in right now, because you're in Miami, I'm in New York, and Bo's in Colorado. So it's kind of like a really, really crazy space we're sitting in right now. And I think the issues are that each different market needs something different.
Yeah. I mean, I'm supposed to start working with the Yoga 6 in a few days, and they hired a GM to handle their pre-sales. Now, usually with pre-sales, you're usually home, making calls because you turn on your digital ads after 4 months and you're home making these calls. She quit with a 60 grand base salary because she got bored and didn't want to make the calls. Now, the crazy thing about that is that 60 grand base starting with a yoga company, that's not really normal. Your base is going to be around 45, 40. I've seen low as 35, which is absolutely ridiculous. But, and then your bonus incentives and stuff like that, you can make upwards of 70, 80K. But starting out at 60 and you quit, that just goes to the mentality that these people that, the younger generation has. She was only 26, but they don't have that grind mentality. They don't have that, I'm going to work for this. There's that entitlement thing that exists in them for whatever reason,
That's wild. It's absolutely wild. You got a question, brother? Oh,
yeah, I'm wondering. I was going to allude to this also in kind of in the CrossFit space too. What I've seen in the industry is just a lot of people generally are folks that like being in the gym, like working out, and they're like, hey, maybe I can make some money here. And this is better than sitting in a corporate office and my normal job or whatever. So they switch to that industry, and they're the ones who become these general managers and even trainers. So yeah, I guess the question becomes how is the market going to correct itself? Are these failing businesses gonna come up? I mean, again, I'd like to look at from the big picture again, like F45s, Orange Theories, which kind of emerged as a spinoff of CrossFit, saying a lot of the stuff you're talking about is like, yeah, I don't want to do power cleans, I don't want to do Olympic lifting, so we're just going to do high intensity. That's a thing. And the problems with all that, and then now those ones are failing as well, it seems. I know a bunch of F45s and Orange Theories are closing down. Yoga 6 becomes like kind of this maybe shift from that, a pivot from that. So it's interesting seeing that. And I'll just call out Corona again. I believe it was around 2012 when you said CrossFit would be a fad and would be gone very soon. But whatever, you were wrong is what I'm saying.
Listen, I'll say it to you a million times over. I'm very thankful for CrossFit because they've given me a lot of business.
There we go.
So anyway, the question I think I was trying to get to in there is to Kyle, with the consulting and with what the industry looks like, is there any kind of hope for, raising the bar? Is the industry going to sort itself out? Is there a libertarian type of thing of like, yeah, let them build it, throw money into it, the investors lose their money, they fail, then we see the next iteration of this cycle over and over again. I don't know if you have any thoughts on
first. Yeah, absolutely. There's a correction being made right now. Early this year, there were I used to see on LinkedIn, with every franchise, whether it's Alloy personal training or whatever it is, pick one. We just sold off 6 more licenses and blah, blah, blah. Like every post was a franchise saying that they just gave off, they just sold off 8 more locations and things of that nature. And I'm looking at this, and I used to talk to my girlfriend about this. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I don't understand. How do you sustain this? This is not sustainable. Later on in the year, that stopped. And they figured out, and I'll give you an example. Exponential's CEO, he's being sued right now because he was brought up on fraud charges. He was lying to the stakeholders and only reporting the positive numbers and wasn't reporting the negative numbers, which obviously you're going to have wildly different numbers if you report the two. And so now the former CEO of Taco Bell came in and they stopped selling off so many franchises, which is the right thing to do, and focused on the ones that they had so they can make them profitable. So that's the first correction that had to be made, was stop giving out licenses left and right in ridiculous territories. Like, why would you give someone a license in North Dakota? What the hell is in North Dakota? Nothing is in North Dakota but Dakota, just stupid. But you see the point I'm making. Like, they were just doing it left and right and not worrying about,
no disrespect to our Dakota listeners.
No disrespect to the Dakota listeners. We love Dakota. I had a girlfriend named Dakota one time. But yeah, that's the first correction that needs to be made. And then the second correction that needs to be made is just the way people hire, start hiring qualified people, and actually hire with some sort of intention instead of just trying to fill your staff. Your corporate will mandate you have a certain amount of people in the gym at one particular time. And I disagree with that. My philosophy has always been, hire as less people as you can and pay them more if possible, and with that, it fixes a lot of different problems. I mean, if you're looking for another trainer, then you can post on Indeed, okay, with this, we're paying this trainer $80 an hour instead of $20 an hour and things of that nature. So it puts you in a position that you can actually make yourself more popular, more marketable, just based off those small fixes, because a lot of the people who want to work at these brands know that they pay like garbage, but right now people are in a place where they need to work, so.
I got a question for you, but I'll say in terms of that model of paying the trainer more would protect the gym way more than anything else they could freaking do, because then the trainer wouldn't be so apt to jump, take all his clientele and bounce.
1,000%.
If you actually cultivate, like I've always said, if you're going to open a spin studio and the person is bringing in people and the class is full, you should pay that guy on a sliding scale. Class is full, I'm going to pay you 2 bills. Everybody's paying $30 when they come in. Off the top, I give you the 2 bills. If the class is 15, we pay you $100. Right. I mean, you there's ways to incentivize people in the gym industry to actually bring people in and support the gym if they do it right. But
absolutely.
With my question,
to that point, don't forget what you're gonna say. But to that point, I did a web series yesterday about staffing and things of that nature. And I was talking to a bunch of F45 owners. And one of the things that I brought up is how you fix your salary for your GMs and things of that nature. And you can get creative with it. Everyone's just so stuck on paying them, okay, this dollar amount or whatever it is, but get creative with it. If you're starting a gym and you're going into pre-sales, then I would base their salary based off how many members you could open up your gym with, right? And so from there on in, depending on the monthly membership, whether it goes up or down, you're never going to go below your base, but you increase it about $500 for every, say 30 members you go up. And it incentivizes them to work harder, to do the grassroots marketing, things of that nature, and they need to fix bonus structures and things of that nature. So small fixes like that, again, to your point, paying them in a different way is definitely going to attract some different talent.
Yeah. So we were just talking about small boutique gyms. The average lifespan of a small boutique gym is what? And
6 months. Oh, I'm about to say for a member to stay is 6 months. Yeah.
It's 6. I didn't know. I was going to ask you about the member, but that's very good information. Mm-hmm. How long do most it's not Rumble's been around for a while. I will give Bo his flowers. CrossFit has been around since 2012 when we first had the conversation. I said it'll be gone tomorrow.
I know the same thing, by the way. So yeah, I was in your boat.
But with that being said, I know I'm giving you props. So 6 months for a member.
Mm-hmm.
How long for a gym?
So the average gym, that's kind of hard to say because the average gym for boutique fitness, it's different because the typical contract that a franchise has is about 6-7 years. And that's usually about the same time you have your lease for a franchise. So they buy into the lease for about 6 to 10 years, give or take, depending on the lease. You can negotiate anything like that. So it's around that time, and it takes about 6 years for you to actually make a profit on average, 4 to 6 years on average. So I think one thing I was reading was about a lot of people don't make it that long. They try to get out because they're not making it takes so long to make a profit. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to put the number on it. I'm pretty sure it's out there, but I'm pretty sure those numbers are pretty skewed just because of the nature of the math of the math, the way it works out. You know, you buy into your lease for about 6 to 10 years. It takes 4 to 5 years to be profitable, and a lot of them don't make it that long. They just don't make it. I talked to the CEO of a company called iSmash, and it's one of those companies that you can rent a room and break the dishes and stuff like that, blah blah blah, right? So he was telling me that he has a bunch of his franchisees trying to get out of the contracts because one, they didn't realize that construction was going to cost so much, but that's why there's such a range. Yeah, But now they're just trying to get out of it, and the problem he faces is that what he's going to do is sell it off, give him 40% of the sale cost, but he doesn't have to do that. He's not contractually obligated to do it. The problem is he doesn't want the bad publicity to go back on him. Yeah, he's screwed. Yeah, franchising is a beast, and I only recommend it if you can open up 2 to 3 clubs. One club is not going to make any sense.
No, listen, man, I never thought about doing that. Yeah. Never ever. Bo, you have something?
No, you got a lot going in my mind. I mean, I just was at an Anytime Fitness here next to one of the clinics I work out of, and they had to close down. They got hit pretty hard during COVID. How are you seeing that with the bounce back from COVID? Any do you know any numbers on what percent of small boutique gyms did shut down? Any of that?
Yeah, it dropped about 40% across the board. A bunch of F45s had to close. It's bouncing back now. I think by the time 2028 hits or something like that, we'll be at 90. It'll be back close to where we were pre-COVID in about a year or two. But that's just because based off the amount of gyms that are actually opening in small studios. It's again, getting into it is harder now just because of construction costs and getting into it, and just because the economy sucks right now, for a lot of different people. And getting loans is a lot harder just because banks know how hard it is to actually run a franchise. Trying to get collateral, your startup costs and things of that nature. Like you take Crunch for instance, you have to have $1 million liquid before you can even actually open a Crunch. And every other franchise is between $250,000 and $600,000 to start up. Where the hell are you getting that money? But if you can pull it off, I recommend 2 to 3 franchises just so you have that. Just so you have that sort of nest to build off one, and so forth.
So, without getting too political, but this makes me. We're recording this end of December 2024. Trump administration here in America about to take over. You got Make America Healthy again, RFK Jr. Again, not going into necessarily what we think of him, his policies, any quotes. But there's 2 main things there I want to ask. One, that kind of shift is bringing a lot of attention. Same stuff that Michelle Obama was bringing, whatever it is, over a decade ago. Sounds like very similar.
They told her to mind her business.
Yeah, we don't need to go into
Stay out of my kitchen is what they told him. But go ahead. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But that piece to it, as well as the economic impacts, tariffs, whatever you want to talk about, of the economics of the entirety. I don't know. Do you have any, from your perspective? This is your specialty here. I'd love to get your take again on these next 4 years, even the next 2 years, while they have the Republicans have control of the House, the Senate, all that scary stuff. But yeah, any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on where things are going? Some of this stuff obviously takes time once they're in office, but there's been some talk of very strong changes.
I don't think RFK is going to have such a big impact, just because he's an advisor. He's not going to change policy. He's not a scientist. I think people are going to recognize early on, I think they are now, that some of the things he says and some of his stances are pretty crazy. Why is his lawyer, lobbying to get rid of the polio vaccine? Don't know, but I think a lot more of that stuff is going to come out. But what I do think is going to have an impact are the tariffs and things of that nature, and they're going to affect. So within the gym, one of the revenue streams is clothes. Okay, where's everything made? Overseas. You want to tariff the main places where everyone gets their clothes made, which is India, Pakistan, China, Russia,
Italy.
Don't
forget about Techno Gym.
Yeah, I mean it's insane. So if you start tariffing places like that, good luck to your revenue stream. That's one that you're not going to have in the gym anymore, and that usually accounts for 20 to 30% of your revenue per month, give or take, the gym. And then
just from a cost perspective, you don't think, again, American made? I think that would be the counterpoint, right? It's we'll start making it in America.
No, and I'll tell you why. Because that takes forever just to build the infrastructure to do things like that. And I have a different perspective on this. Well, a different perspective because I had a clothing line, so I know what the stuff costs to have made in China versus here. In China, just to give everyone inside bowl information, the reason why it costs so much for, let's say, clothing to get made, why it's so cheap in China, is because they have everything in house. They have a seamstress in house. They have the fabric in house. They have dyes in house. They have everything in house. That's why they can make it cheap. Here in America, factories usually outsource certain things. So if I want to get a hoodie made in here, and I'm a new designer, and I want to get a sample made, it would cost me upwards minimum $500 to $1,000 plus just to get maybe 1 or 2 samples. In China, I get one for $60. If I'm a new designer, that how much the difference that makes? $60 versus $500 to $1,000. And I've been on the phone. I've had phone calls with American manufacturers. It's just not possible. It's just not economically possible if you don't have the money, and the average person does not. So again, if those tariffs do go through, yeah, that's good luck with the clothing industry. It's going to affect them heavily. But then also with the construction of new franchises, or current ones, where are you getting your steel from? Where are you getting?
We saw that during Trump's first term, tariffs on Canada and lumber went way up.
Right.
Folks felt it in their houses, but yeah, there's still a huge disconnect, I think, of the general public. We're not talking about that. I don't mean to go that route. But the other piece of that effect. Yeah. The other piece of that whole equation, even mass deportation, another big part of those plans. Not sure how much it'll have an effect on the fitness industry as much. Maybe you can provide some perspective on that.
I think it will, because call a spade, a lot of the maintenance workers in a lot of these gyms come from different countries. A lot of the maintenance staff, the porters and things of that. So I think it's definitely going to have an effect. I think the administration is definitely going to have strange effects on the fitness industry. And I think everyone's going to feel it, because there's everything that he wants to implement is going to have an effect, has some sort of arm in the industry, whether it's clothing, whether it's the employees, whether it's construction costs and things of that nature. I don't think RFK is going to have a huge impact. I think people are going to listen to him for a little while, and pretty much that's it. I hope.
Well, the other big piece is the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, the public insurance. Yeah, again, thinking of if things become a little more untenable in that side of it, I think the push from guys like me is always, let's get fitter, let's avoid the healthcare space altogether. And I think the fitness industry is in a position. We were started. We certainly veered off, and this how I just every conversation I'm ever in veers off, and hopefully comes back to it. So, but we did talk about GLP-1s and how the fitness industry, physical therapy as well for my folks is able to kind of help maybe fill in some of those gaps. But at the same time, not sure if again, same thing we're talking about raising the bar in the fitness industry, trainers coming into the space. Do we see any real push and hope of improving the overall picture? Again, is there still a big gap between boutique gyms, the costs you mentioned, and everyone's struggling financially, and it doesn't sound like we have a lot of optimism of things getting better necessarily there. But yeah, that versus investing in your fitness to maybe help avoid the healthcare space. That's kind of my whole brand. But yeah, wondering if you see any hope with everything going on that, maybe people will be like, okay, let me start. And I've heard people, and I get injured. By the way, you guys talk about all these injuries coming from CrossFit. I'm getting people now who are like, I can't afford a gym membership. I'm going back to P90X videotapes I have, and they're getting injured from that. P90X was the original CrossFit.
Well, wait a minute. Let's not get into your little tirade here. Let's have him answer the question, and let's keep it moving, because the reality of it is, a lot of people are getting hurt with personal trainers who have no business personal training. There's a lot of people online who are getting hurt because they're changing movement patterns. And for some reason or another, when you're doing that online, I can't stick my hand through the damn camera to adjust the shoulder or to make your body, put your body in the proper positioning. So
I know I set up a big question. But to your point, since you went there, tonal, mirror, all these kind of AI-based concepts, would love to. That was a huge topic I think we wanted to get to. Yeah.
So I'll answer both. So I think what happens is there over the years has been not a big push, but there's been a push for insurance companies to cover gyms, for them to get inside that. And I know people have tried to push that. I don't know why it doesn't work. More corporate offices need to offer health initiatives and things of that nature also, and they just don't. More corporate, more companies and things of that nature. And for some reason they don't. Studies have shown if your employees are more healthy, then you have a better business. That's just a fact. In terms of, we
talked about that on our last podcast. That Corona was very surprised that
it's just what it is. And it's not that hard to understand. If you're in a healthier position, if you're more healthy, you do healthier things. Your life is somewhat better. You do carry yourself a lot better. I mean, even from a physiological standpoint, hormonally you're better. So that's just what it is. I think with this administration coming in, because no one really knows what they're going to do with healthcare, including the administration that is coming in. He was asked about that a few days ago, and he said he wants to get rid of Obamacare, and he has some ideas, but they've been saying that before Obama was even in office. So I honestly think it's a circus in terms of healthcare and how they can implement that into gyms and being able to give that to members and things of that nature. I wish they would. In terms of like tonal and mirror and things like that, I think it's a great idea. The problem is there was one in my old building. People still have no idea what they're doing. And I look at influencers and fitness enthusiasts. I look at fitness influencers and people online, and I look at them teaching someone how to do a squat, a lunge, and I'm like, how are people still watching this? But then I'll go to the building of my gym, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? So yeah, there is a market for those things. The problem is people still have no idea what they're doing. I'm pretty sure you guys would be surprised. You see someone in the gym and like, how is your squat form that terrible?
Oh, there's no surprises here. There are no surprises here.
There are no surprises.
I'm always thrown when I see things like that. So yeah, in theory, mirror and tonal and those things were a great idea, but they were not going to take off one because they were too damn expensive. Who's paying $3,000 for a freaking mirror? And then 2, it was subscription based. Now bought by Lululemon. Who the hell is using that except moms in Bel Air? But those things were
I mean, just to push back a little bit. I mean, Peloton was what, 2,500 for the bike, and then people are that was pretty popular.
And then
Peloton dipped.
For sure.
And then the dude from.
So Peloton also had to expand though. Peloton also came out with their treadmill.
Right. And now they're jumping into strength and stealing my friend Ladder's programs and all that.
Yeah.
Literally stealing their logos and colors, which was funny. For their strength thing. But yeah, I mean, again, let's go again. For me, I'm trying to look at it from a practical perspective. You're talking about $3,000, but again, if I find a moderate personal trainer, it costs $100 a session. That's 30 sessions. If I'm like, hey, I'm committing this next year to getting fitter in 2025, I'm going to spend more than $3,000 on personal training now.
But wait a minute.
But you're also spending the money on personal experience, which
sure.
You should.
But my point is, like I said, some people don't have the money. They're going to go to that P90X videotape, which I've seen this resurgence of people pulling out these just online videos, and there's that option of this is super low cost. I can do $50 a month for a package. I can do $150 a month or $200 for personalized workouts. And if I know something of what I'm doing, I offer that as a service. Of course, there's a whole mixed bag of what you're getting quality wise. So you're getting a little bit of that personal interaction, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, again, I think everyone's, these are the decisions people are making. Some people like to go get the community feel. They like to have someone yelling at them. The spin classes again. Yeah. What's the difference between Peloton and going to Soul Cycle? It eventually becomes a cheaper option to go to Peloton than to go to whatever it is, $30 a
It definitely does. Well, one of the things that I see is that, you have a lot of people that left Orange Theory because it became redundant, so offering these hybrid gym models, with the wellness and the fitness and different kind of classes, I think that's one of the things that's going to happen next year. Because there are a lot of brands out there that we don't even know about. There's so many fitness brands in Australia that are not even talked about that I think will be here next year. There's one called UBX that I like. That's a boxing gym, and there are just so many out there. So I think because of social media and things of that nature, people are more open to a variety of things that they haven't tried before. Just because now they have the options.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm gonna
go ahead.
Go. You want to continue?
I got a question.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
We'll answer your question because I have a question for him, and we're getting tight on time, so I want to make sure we get everything through.
So my thought again, I know we joked about or whatever, went back and forth on CrossFit and all these other brand names, but I'm looking at it, and again from this perspective of, and even the Soul Cycles and Pelotons, and what we're talking about here is, what's the measurable outcome that folks a year from now are like, oh, look at that, I'm actually better. Now, again, there's the easy answer, I think, in fitness, right? How do you look on the scale? What, I lost 10 pounds. Great. We all know food is really the bigger piece there. Abs are made in the kitchen, all that good stuff. I think CrossFit, again, has done a very good job outside of the bad coaching and the stuff the gym fails that you're pointing out to, which unfortunately did become the main thing. But on a foundational level, CrossFit comes back to hey, I got better at this workout. Maybe I didn't even get better at this, and this. My body feels better. I got more energy. All those other side effects are coming from different aspects of fitness and nutrition and improving your lifestyle. That's always, you mentioned the wellness space. That's always going to be the thing. But I think, again, like you said, CrossFit did a very good job, in my opinion, of branding it, marketing it, and packaging it. You mentioned it was a really good time for them to do it. I think that was partly people getting iPhones, all that kind of stuff. It did become, some people looking at the weird, crazy things and being like, I don't want anything to do with that. But then there's this percentage of people that are like, I need to go do that. But I think my big thing to come back to, and this is what I want to push in my business in 2025, I'm actually publishing a chapter in a book, and my whole thing is about movement vital signs, where if we can come up with objective numbers, just like everyone's looking at, in this election cycle, we talked a little bit about the politics, but everyone is like, hey, eggs and bacon are more expensive, so I'm going to vote for the other guy. Those numbers are really simple. The same thing when we talk about fitness, it's you can look at the number on the scale, but again, I think CrossFit has that hey, the test was how many burpees can I do in 7 minutes? And the first time I did that, at New Year's of 2024, I only did 50 burpees, and now I can do 70 burpees. Like, you can see those numbers in almost every workout. There's all these little progressions. Personal trainers should be, I assume, you know, you're worth your weight in salt. These two guys here, you're looking at that. So what do you think about that objective concept? It's something I wish physical therapists would push, of like, hey, here's your 21-point checkup, right? We talk about this all the time. Like, you go to your mechanic, they're like, hey, here's your 21 points. This is not good. You need to change your brake pads. You have this much more tire tread, whatever. Same thing. Why is that missing from fitness? Now we talk about assessments. I would love to, I think we could spend a whole hour on this piece of the conversation. So I'm going to throw that at you. I think there was a question in there. I'm gonna let you go, Kyle, because we're running short.
Going back to Peloton and things like that, I think where they benefit, because if you look at spin studios, and studios that were just doing spin, right? What was the physical demographic that was always constant? Slim,
middle-aged women.
Right, exactly. Slim, middle-aged women who pretty much, you know, look the same, right? What they got out of that was, one, they got their community. Two, they felt great during the class. Three, they felt great after the class. That's pretty much it. The only thing that's measurable is their attitude before and after the class, and feeling like they did something for that particular day. Yes, you might lose some inches, and I think you'll get better from a cardio standpoint just because you're doing it over time, and obviously, you know, it's going to help with something. But obviously, that's just going to reach a ceiling at some point. You're not, you know, unless you're going a longer distance or going faster, it's going to stop at some point. It's just like doing cardio. You're going to stop burning that amount of calories as soon as you step off that treadmill. You know, so in regards to those type of classes, yeah, that's the only measurable things you can actually look at. Going forward now, they are implementing more of a wellness space in these gyms. So you can get blood tests done. You can get blood pressure and all that. You can get a whole blood panel done in these gyms. So I think there will be a push for that. It's going to be expensive as hell to do that, and not a lot of gyms can do it. But the ones that are owned by holding companies, or owned by, you know, a larger corporation, who have are owned by investment funds, they will have the money to be able to do that sort of stuff. But the problem is they're going to own it's going to come down to exclusivity also, because there's a new gym that opened up in Manhattan 4 or 5 months ago, and what is it, 10-30 grand a month, some wildness like that. It's down in Soho, and it looks like a complete spa, but you're going to get everything out of it. You're going to get a blood panel. You can talk to, I believe you get a personal trainer and all these amenities and things like that. So there is going to be a push for that. I think that the following year, the year after that, it's going to be less expensive because they're going to see how lucrative it actually is. And there's only going to be a certain amount of people that actually afford that. And that's going to have a ceiling at some point. You know, you are going to have to become, you know, sort of middle priced and want to market to the people that actually can afford it, or who want to pay for it, are going to find a way to pay for it. And I think that's what's going to happen in the next few years. I think there is going to be a push for, you know, a bigger wellness space instead of, you know, super high end gyms that can actually afford it.
Yeah, you mean you don't want to pay $300 to go to Equinox and only be able to go into one club? So let's do a little rapid fire because we don't got a lot of time.
Sure.
I want to get a quick thought of you about what people are doing. I'll give you the questions in advance. What people are doing with AI in terms of making their training programs from AI without AI really knowing what they do for a living. There's no assessment. And I want you also to answer what's going to be hot in 2025 and any recommendations. My third question is any recommendations you have for the New Year resolutioners.
Oof. Yeah, I would say I'll start with the third one and just start moving. Pick a gym and start going. Do your research. And if you're a newbie to the fitness world, do your research, figure out what you like doing, and just start moving, and then go from there. Because the next year there's going to be so many different choices to choose from, whether it's boxing, whether it's boxing in a sauna, or a boxing, you know, right now they have whatever it is. There's so many different types of Pilates studios out there right now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm pretty sure like in February there's gonna be boxing Pilates and things of that nature. So, you know, just start moving right now, and then, you know, during the year you'll get to see where you really want to fall into. In terms of AI, there's a lot of things coming out with AI. There's this company that I had a call with earlier this year, and they're coming out with cameras that can monitor it's a little crazy. They come in with cameras that can monitor each person that comes to the gym, and once they figure out your profile, you'll come up on the screen, and they'll be able to show your workout from last week or yesterday, and how many reps you did, and so forth, and things like that. So AI is getting pretty it's getting like Skynet. There's going to be a bunch of Terminators walking around here at some point. Thanks, Elon. And then another thing with AI, which is pretty cool, is that you'll be able to say what you want, and then it'll visually come up on the screen. So you'll be say, okay, do a squat, and all of a sudden it'll come up with the whole workout, with the whole screen on your phone. So yeah, there's a lot of AI programs that are coming out right now. But I think one of the biggest things is that if it gets implemented in gyms the way people want it to, then you're going to have to up your customer service, because you have AI doing a bunch of things for you. Then you're going to have to justify the price you're probably going to put it at once you implement that AI service. That means you're going to have a different type of personal trainer in there. Your staff is going to have to be, top notch to handle that customer service and things like that. So, I think AI is going to be crazy next year.
And give us the last thing I want is 2025 trends. Oof. What do you see coming?
Just more of the wellness, because one thing we didn't talk about is ice baths and all that stuff, and recovery. Recovery is going to be big next year, and that's going to be in terms of wellness. And I guess you can throw recovery in there because they all sort of, like I said, they all sort of are clearly blurred together. Wellness, recovery, and just overall fitness. That is a cheaper route to go that you can market. So you can have ice baths and things of that nature in your gym that don't cost the arm and the leg, like doing a blood panel and things like that. So recovery is going to be a big part of service, things like cryotherapy, compression therapy, massage guns, and things like that. I think there's going to be a big push for recovery, just because I think more people are working out each year over year. So the more people can be working out, you're going to have to have services for every type of member out there. So recovery, wellness, I think those are the two biggest trends, and that's what you need to look out for next year.
Bo, you got any questions before we wrap this up?
No, I have my real human client that I'm gonna find an
I'm
AI
gonna
program for right now.
So, well, that's a wrap. Kyle Anderson, you are an absolute rock star. Thank you for dropping knowledge and sharing your incredible journey with us today. Your insights are pure gold. For everyone eager to dive deeper into Kyle's world of fitness excellence, you can connect with him at fitpathconsulting.com. Do you have any other links?
No, pretty much all my links are the same. At FitPath Consulting on Instagram, and you can see FitPath Consulting, or just look up my name on LinkedIn, and I'm up there. And we offer a bunch of different services.
He's not the guy who plays in the NBA, for those Googling him.
That's right.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that. There's a bunch of Kyle Andersons out there, which is weird.
Yeah, and
I wanted to do my Matrix thing. Hello, Mr. Anderson.
I get called that all the time. Yeah.
By the way,
I am the one. By the way.
If today's episode lit a fire under you, spread the love. Hit the review button, share it with someone who needs the message, and make sure you subscribe to more game-changing content. But here's the real talk. Knowledge without action is wishful thinking. Get out there and put these insights to work. Massive gratitude to our amazing sponsor, Fit Care Physiotherapy and Wellness. They're living proof that investing in your fitness today keeps the doctor away tomorrow. Mark your calendars. We've got another incredible guest lined up. Well, we don't. It's just going to be me and Bo in 2 weeks. From Bo and myself, we're sending you a warm holiday wishes your way, whether celebrating Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or anything else. May your festivities be filled with health, joy, and those sweet gains. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries, keep evolving, and never stop demanding better. Your future self will thank you. Peace out.
Awesome. Great.